Okay, it's great to have all of you with us today for our new webinar. The name of it is The Rise of the In-Store Shopper Moment, Why an Experience is No Longer Enough, and How Signage and Display Make the Difference. My name is Michael Decker. I'm the Vice President of Marketing Strategy here at Medallion Retail, and I'm going to be your moderator today. We have some really exciting stuff to share. I think we're going to change some minds about what makes an effective in-store shopping experience. So let's meet the guys who are going to work to make that happen. With me is experience and content strategist Bradley Daves. We call him our Chief Idea Wrangler. He's been a creative director at several top New York agencies where he helped redefine the concept of experiential marketing. Bradley's built a career on shaking things up and has crafted inventive and thought-provoking digital, interactive, and content programs for more than 85 Fortune 500 brands and retailers. I also want you to meet my friend Mike Pakalik. He's our senior design director. We call him our chief art guy. And he has been a creative leader here at Medallion Retail for many years. Mike has served as lead creative at several Madison Avenue agencies, applying his talents to campaigns for more than 30 companies. Mike's marketing savvy, coupled with his keen designer's eye, allows him to identify and transform critical brand attributes into engaging consumer experiences. Okay, with that, now that you know us, let's jump right in with Mr. Bradley Daves.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Hi, everybody. We're really excited to have you. We're also excited about this topic, and we think we may have some provocative things to share today. Like Michael said, our hope is to expand and possibly change the way you think about the shopper experience. So let's get started. What we have named the shopper moment is the latest incarnation of what used to simply be called a visit to the store. Back in the day, the shopper wanted bargains. She wanted value, convenience, maybe a little entertainment as she walked the aisles. She didn't ask for much from retailers, just an easy way to get what she needed at a decent price. So that's what retailers gave her, a business transaction, and that was fine by all for a few decades. Then television happened. Seemingly overnight, a world of new options appeared literally right in front of the shopper's eyes. Beautiful items being sold by beautiful people paraded across the TV screen. The images were glamorous and aspirational. The ads told stories and promised better lives. Brands had faces and products had personalities. And the shopper had choices, many, many choices. Picking the ideal product became more complicated, and not just because of the growing number of products to choose from. Things got emotional. Influenced by TV ads, the shopper now reacted with strong feelings to things she bought or wanted to buy but couldn't. That new dishwasher she saw during GE Theater could make her feel things: longing, envy, validation, hope, acceptance. Shopping became more reactionary and emotion driven, as much about the heart as the head, which worked for shoppers and retailers for a few more decades. Then the internet happened. Information was everywhere and really easy to get to. Suddenly, any question could be answered, any destination could be researched, any product could be bought and reviewed. Internet voices were unfiltered and almost nothing was off limits. It was a democratic space promising power and access, a world where audacity was rewarded and everybody got to share an opinion. The internet changed the way people played, learned, created, and of course shopped. The very idea of retail evolved seemingly overnight, and the balance of power between the retailer and the shopper began to shift. And flash forward, and our shopper is once again facing a multitude of options. But this time she took control. She used the internet to inform and educate herself about brands and products. She bought online. She spoke up loudly about what she liked and what she didn't like. She built forums for reviews and communities to share her discoveries with new friends. She tapped into social media, transforming Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram into brand information meccas and platforms to celebrate her personal style. She also stopped waiting for retailers to ask her what she wanted. By believing she should have an influential voice in the shopping conversation, she created one for herself.
And Bradley, smart retail brands really listened to her voice because it told them that the concept of shopping really had to expand and that a meaningful retail transaction must extend beyond the simple exchange of dollars for goods and services. Shopping should satisfy more than just the need to procure stuff and get really cool things. This was fantastic news for retailers because what they heard was that people actually like shopping. Sure, they tried the online thing, but they still wanted to come into the store. What they needed was a new reason, and great shopper experience became that reason. Simply put, the shopper experience is that magical journey that she takes between noticing a product and actually owning it. It's made up of a lot of contact points. In a perfect retail marketer's world, all of those points should delight the shopper. An effective shopper experience isn't bound by environment. It flows friction free between online, in store, and in world. It's what we call 360-degree retail. It's interactions that surround and envelop and include the shopper. These interactions are seamless, but they're all connected. They're informed by prior dealings, and the shopper is consistent, and the messages are consistent across all platforms. Look, just think of a simple circle. A brand conversation may begin with a commercial and then continue digitally. Soon it develops into an intimate exchange, and then it becomes an in store experience, which serves as content for our shopper to curate and share through social media, all of which in turn activates new engagement. When it's done right, the shopper experience is meaningful and satisfying and connective. It's really a powerful marketing approach that measurably strengthens the relationship between the shopper and the retailer. But unfortunately, it's no longer enough. It's true that we haven't felt that great internet sized seismic shift in shopper empowerment in quite some time. But there sure have been small but significant shakeups. Shoppers now seek a refinement of the experience. They want retail marketers to fine tune the interaction, to give them an experience that's emotional, with real depth and authenticity. They want it more personalized, which brings us to our shopper moment.
Now, the shopper moment represents an evolution beyond the shopper experience. We describe it as retail experience 2.0 if saying 2.0 were still a thing. And you may be wondering why moment? Why not a shopper minute or shopper rendezvous? Well, rendezvous is hard to spell. And to us, the inherent value of a shopper moment isn't measured by its duration, so a minute doesn't work. A shopper moment should be measured by its depth. Shopper moment isn't about size, it's about the size of its impact. And there are no clocks ticking during a shopper moment. What matters is the weight of the memory it creates. We chose the word moment deliberately with very specific intent. A moment transcends time. It speaks to an interaction that is poetic, enchanting, and even epic. Of course, some retail marketers are still building experiences. In this new retail environment, that sounds a bit cold and mechanical. Contrast that with creating a moment. That phrase makes shoppers think of stories and magic and inclusion. It feels honest and it feels true. Now, I don't want to get all Prince Charming glass slippery on you, but the fairy tale vibe is not an accident. There's powerful subtext to the idea of a moment. A moment conjures romance and intimacy. A moment is fragile, something delicate and worth protecting. A moment is fleeting and leaves behind a warm and fuzzy memory. A moment is something to be shared. And whether it's between a prince and a princess or a shopper and a retail brand, it makes no difference. I'm talking about an emotional connection. At its purest and most effective, when it's done right, the shopper moment enhances the life of the shopper in a genuine way. And I know what you're thinking. I don't want to enhance lives. I just need to sell some stuff. I get it. You're wondering if we really need all this drama. And we do. This drama, or to be a little less Maury, this layered interactive storytelling, is what shoppers want. They've made it clear that they come to the store not just to buy things, but also to feel things. and the standard shopper experience isn't enough anymore. Shopper moments should be facilitated at every touch point. Remember, the moment is a 360-degree retail experience amplified. A sale email can be a moment, so can a website interaction. A call to customer service, a delivery, a return, an interaction with a sales associate, all potential moments. In-store moments are critical as well, and as they happen to be our specialty, we'll focus on those.
Inside the store, physically face to face with the shopper is where moments can be the most meaningful and certainly more effective. Look, she's right there. Make her visit worthwhile and give her a reason to come back. Give her an amazing interaction that she can boast about with her friends. When thinking about in-store shopper moments, I think it's a mistake to consider signage and display as, well, just signage and display. That simple end cap or that giant gondola are certainly moments in the making, moments that can engage the shopper on an emotional level and speak to her basic human needs to connect and certainly to belong. We feel that a shopper moment must do at least one of five things. First, it must inform. It should anticipate what she needs to know and give it to her clearly and simply. Second, it has to educate. Show her how to do and why she needs it. But be careful, don't make her feel foolish. Third is the moment must inspire, wow her with possibilities, and help her see herself within the story. Fourth, it has to entertain, wow the heck out of her, put on a show, delight her with the magic of the unexpected. And lastly, the shopper moment has to empower, bring her into the fold, and boost her confidence. So to recap, a shopper moment can do two, three, or all five of these things, but whatever the combination, the moment has to satisfy the shopper. Above everything else, that satisfaction is what makes it her very own moment.
Now, what makes it your moment is the branding. An unbranded shopper moment is like a great internet meme. People remember it and pass it along, but they have no idea where it came from. You want your shopper to know exactly who made her great moment happen. Make your shopper moments ownable. Do something or say something in a way unique to the brand. Speak in the brand voice, capture the right tone, and feel free to showcase personality. Skip the branding part and you run the risk of wasting effort and money, or worse, creating a moment that the shopper thanks somebody else for. Remember that prince and princess from earlier? That's your brand and your shopper. Your relationship is a romance. All that fairy tale, true love, happily ever after stuff matters when you're creating a retail shopper moment. A great moment makes her genuinely feel special and included. Only then will she try on the glass slipper and buy something. And clearly, the shopper moment represents a new era in retail marketing with new rules that demand new ideas that are executed in new ways. That's true on the conceptual level and from a tactical perspective as well. Earlier, we talked about the five functions of the shopper moment: inform, educate, inspire, entertain, and empower.
And satisfy, Bradley. Remember, every moment has to be satisfying.
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk tactics. Let's examine the nuts and bolts of how to transform signage and display into effective in-store shopper moments. First thing you want to do is make it flexible. Is it scalable in any retail environment? Next, you want to make it adaptable to physical spaces, situations, and individuals. Third, you want to make it multi-platform. It's that thing we used to call omni-channel and now 360-degree retail. The link between online and in-store will only get stronger and more important to shoppers, so make it a solid one. Fourth, you want to make it feedback focused. A moment is about communication, and that has to flow both ways. It's not just the brand talking, it's a conversation. Build in mechanisms that allow the shopper to tell you what she thinks and wants and needs, and then make sure to listen to her. Lastly, make it satisfying. We may have mentioned this, Mike, but it is that critical. Shopper satisfaction should be the moment-focused retail marketer's top priority.
Okay. Well, we've covered what a shopper moment is, and we spoke about the 5 things that we feel it must do. And we shared some tactics to elevate signage and display to that shopper moment level. Now let's take a couple of minutes and roll up our sleeves and tackle the last big question. And that is, what the heck do shopper moments look like? What form can they take? Well, we've done a little research and identified 8 kinds of shopper moments that we'd like to share with you. The first is one-on-one. This is a moment that feels the most intimate. It's a meaningful interaction between the brand and the shopper. It's one that may look small, but it really has huge impact. Think of the one-on-one shopper moment as a quiet shared connection, an almost secret private exchange that confirms the humanity and the authenticity of a brand. This image I'm going to share with you really reflects that one-on-one. It's a brow bar that was installed into a part of distressed space within Macy's. Macy's had a voluminous sales floor area that was really being underutilized. And what they did is they took this massive 20-foot ceiling vaulted area and they put this very, very personal one-on-one brow bar that it really gives a sense of a small boutique within this huge store. By just doing some simple rearranging, dropping the ceiling down with a beautiful, easy to install frame, putting some great illuminated floral pieces on top, great color spectrum, and creating much more of a one-on-one, no pun intended, in your face type of boutique. They really gave the shopper a very, very personalized experience.
And I think they fully understood that that a one-on-one experience is best realized in a smaller, more intimate space. So as you say, dropping the ceiling in a way that doesn't feel heavy, but creates kind of a safe zone for this one-on-one interaction is a really smart strategy. And I think they did a beautiful job.
I think I totally agree. Well, the next moment that we want to share with you is community. You know, some things are better when you share them, like a great pizza, or maybe a little secret, or in this instance, a moment. The community shopper moment is one that's designed and executed with the idea that group participation is mandatory for success. It's a shared experience between the shoppers and between a shopper and the brand. Each new shopper participant brings fresh perspective that feeds the interactions, making the moment even more fun or festive or even grand. This example shows what our friends at Absolute Vodka did with a simple urban bus stop in downtown area. They took something as uh, invisible, if you would, as a bus stop and created a den-like, a beautiful environment with a couple of simple chairs, some wonderful graphics, a little color tweak on the actual piece itself, and created a warm place where you want to sit down and enjoy your absolute Bloody Mary, or I know this cowboy does most certainly. But it's a wonderful opportunity for both the commuters who would utilize this for their travels, as well as pedestrians on the street and travelers within mass transit and driving by. It really is uh, an installation that becomes the talk of the community. You could just see this messaging out and people lining up to want to sit in those chairs. And if I had my druthers with a Bloody Mary in their hand, but they really did a great job. And it's a lot of creative thinking, but it didn't take a lot to make it happen.
Right. I think it's the understanding of creating a community themed moment. So whether you're in it, whether you see it, whether you walk by it, you're now part of it. And I think it's interesting that the experience will change as new people come and old people leave. The conversation and the interpretation and the context will change based on the community. And I think, like you say, Mike, it's a simple execution, but I think it's a big idea.
Yeah. All right. The next example I want to share is one that's based around community. I'm sorry, is one that's personalized. It's a more personalized community. You know, modern retail marketing is really all about personalization. Products and moments must feel unique to each individual shopper. Just for me is her retail mantra. The personalized moment provides the shopper with an opportunity to explore and discover things like color, model, style, size, or formulation that's absolutely perfect for her. This is different from the one on one shopper moment. That's about intimacy and closeness and attention. The personalized moment speaks to the shopper's demand that her unique needs need to be understood and met. And this example shows how New Balance reacted to that. New Balance took a something as functional as a build your own athletic footwear display, and they took it out of what would normally be a digital screen, interactive, unpersonal, certainly unphysical opportunity, and they put the entire thing into touch points where you can actually feel the material, feel the substrate, feel the laces, smell the leathers, smell the vinyl, smell all of the elements that are involved in putting your personal styled athletic footwear together. You know, this is something where you would normally fall into digitizing this and making it this slick Jetsons like kiosk, but New Balance went the other way, and they really made it a true touch point type of display, really allowing the shopper to get that personalized sensation that New Balance is speaking directly to her.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right in the idea of presenting this not in a digital format is extremely smart. And I love how they use the elements of the sneaker, the things you use to build it as display items. I think it just becomes very striking, very attractive to shoppers. I don't remember what this one smells like, but I bet it was really good. So
Certainly better at this point than after you wear them for a few weeks. All right. Well, the next example that we want to share with you is based around the interactive moment. And by interactive, I don't necessarily mean digital, as we just spoke about. You see, the interactive moment is one that draws the shopper in. It beckons her to come a little bit closer and invites her to go ahead and give it a try. It's a moment that's driven by involvement and participation, not specifically technology. You know, assisting a celebrity chef is as interactive as a touchscreen dressing room. I mean, they're really both hands on experiences. This image is from Samsung Hall, and on one side, and a typical resort fudge homemade chocolate retail establishment on the left side. And they both are interactive, and I'll explain why. On the left side, we've all been there. We've all been at the beach or in the mountains or at the lake, and we've stopped by the fudge shop, and we knew we shouldn't have gone on in, but we did. And once we got in, we were surrounded and we were bombarded. Our senses were bombarded by not only the great smell, but the theater of, in this particular instance, a confectionery artisan demonstrating his craft at making fudge and spinning this around and bringing it to life. And I think we're all kind of intimidated by one another because of the shared experience and the interactive value of it to make that purchase. I know I probably would have walked out of there with at least a pound of this stuff and be kicking myself later, but I would be caught up in it because I was interactive with it. On the right side, what Samsung Hall did is this particular shopper is holding her smartphone in her hand, and her smartphone has already been curated prior to her entering this space. And as she enters the space, all of her personal images, all of her Facebook and Instagram images surround her, and specific words that she used in the descriptions call out to her. So what really happens is she created an interactive experience that's curated based on her content. And it really touches a very strong emotional chord. So as you're handling these new Samsung products, you already have a sense that you're part of it. You're interacting with it, and in effect, you already have ownership of it. They both really touch the core of wanting to be part of something bigger and experiencing something personal.
And I think your point about the emotional connection is absolutely spot on. Both of these experiences do that, and I really think it's important to underscore the fact that, you know, interactive isn't about the technology; it is about the experience that's
Well,
shared.
yeah, it doesn't have to be. You
Right.
shouldn't, don't pigeonhole it.
I think brands can do themselves disservice if they think it only is a technology question, because I dare say the folks in that image on the left, they're going to take home a really fine family memory, and it has nothing to do with the delivery system or the technology. It has to do with engagement and being involved together.
Totally.
All right. The next type of shopper moment is social. And we all know that pretty much every person in the store has a smartphone. The social moment gives that shopper a reason to click or share or post or snap a selfie by turning surroundings into newsworthy visual happenings. You want to create an environment that not only encourages but empowers the shopper to declare her presence and share her perspective. Diet Coke did a great example of this for one of their anniversary events. And you can see here that they have created basically a social media studio. So the opportunity for folks to bring their devices in and use them in all sorts of ways is presented here. You can see in the background the booths that I always think look like shower curtains. The photo booths with the green screens in the back, so that visitors can take shots and personalize the background. You can see a couple of touch screens there where they were running Twitter promotions. It, basically, this is the setting for social media engagement, and they were really smart to understand their audience here, and instead of discouraging that kind of activity, to actually not just encourage it but to facilitate it.
They did a fantastic job. The photo booths in the back, Bradley, I love because what they actually did is they had a series of images of foods that go really well with Diet Coke. So you could sit there and surround yourself with a great slice of pizza or a great hot dog or a piece of chicken or something that you normally the individual shopper would associate the Diet Coke product with a certain type of food. And it first of all creates great images to spread via social media. This is a pretty quick, easy to set up and easy to knock down installation. And it's just a smart way to take something as what could be invisible as Diet Coke, which almost becomes like asking for water at a restaurant, and making it fun again and making it cool and having you share it with your social media universe, and it brings it back to life. It's a wonderful, fun little thing.
Absolutely, and the idea of turning your shoppers into brand advocates is a smart one, and if you can let them have a good time while they're doing it, it's kind of a win-win. So I really think this is a smart approach. All right, the next kind of shopper moment is shopper driven, and this is the moment that could be considered crowdsourced. It's a manifestation of the interaction shoppers have indicated they want to share with one another and the brand. The shopper-driven moment is a response, a reply. It's an acknowledgement that the brand respects the collective voice. You by Cotex created a pop-up shop that was basically dedicated to making periods a little more bearable. This entire idea was
Speak for yourself, my friend.
It was inspired by Susan
Sarah, yeah.
Sarah.
What's Sarah, right?
was
I did
Sarah.
think it was Sarah. Um, a Tumblr post where she basically said, I wish and I want, and as she says here, I'm calling for a period shop. Um, I want a space where we can feel comfortable and respected during an otherwise shitty time of the month. And the brand heard her and spoke to her and listened to her and brought in her friends. And it is that group that created this pop-up, and it had all sorts of products and art installations and a DJ and food items, all driven by what the crowd wanted. And it's completely unexpected, completely crowdsourced, and was a huge centerpiece for the brand as they were kind of moving into a new territory.
What I love that they did here is they did it with a kind of a tongue-in-cheek wink of humor, that they're taking something that certainly could be a very uncomfortable experience, and they're bringing all of these wonderful, warm, fun elements to it, and they're also taking things out of the closet. I mean, there's no more taboo. Let's talk about it, and let's talk about how we react to it and how we could make it so much more fun. And boy, that says to the shopper that this brand understands me, reacts to me, knows me, and wants to satisfy me. And they did just an absolute bang up job. Fantastic.
Totally. All right. Next is the real-time shopper moment. And this is pretty much what it sounds like, an interaction that is happening right now. There is a limited edition and one-time only feel to the real-time moment. This is an opportunity that isn't going to last forever. There's a sense of urgency. Shoppers want to be there when it happens, whatever it is. The only thing they love more is letting people know that they're there. Great example of this is a shoppable catwalk show that was staged by House of Holland. And basically it was centered on these beautiful wearable technology brooches that the designer created and had the models wear as they walked the runway. And viewers of the show in real time could use a device they had been given to connect with an item of clothing as it went down the runway and purchase it. And when they left the show, there was a bag there with the clothing they had picked out in there and sized for them, and they literally just walked out with their stuff. I think it's a really interesting way to take something that is usually passive and make it active, and give the folks at the show something more to do than just look. And I think it's also a great example of taking something that might not be expected in terms of a wearable, right? He didn't hide the technology in a zipper or in a seam. He created gigantic visuals that served as the connecting points. And I think that was really smart. And I think this is a great idea that we're going to see executed more and more, I think, on the sales floor.
I know this is a personal favorite of yours, and I am. And when you look at it, you initially think, I think because it's a fashion type of experience, that you think high end, but you could really apply this into a much more everyday type of retail environment or pop-up retail environment, by having people, before they enter the space, wear a pin. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It could be a pin that messages the brand or messages the type of feeling that you have. But as you kind of walk around, even in a limited, like I said, pop-up type of space, you walk around, you select product, and then boom, you have a package waiting for you as you exit the space. And you've created an unbelievably satisfying experience. And not to mention a kind of really cool thing to put into your little social world, like, hey, who's faster than me? But this is great. They did a great job.
Yeah, I think the idea of in the moment and in real life and in real time are all going to be important as we continue to kind of form and shape what the shopper moment is. I think this is going to be a big part of it. All right. Lastly, we have the destinational shopper moment. You know, more and more shoppers are viewing retail locations as places to hang out, to meet friends, or to gather their thoughts and soak in some local color. They want to stay a while. The destinational moment gives them a place and a reason to do that. The shopper wants a spot that's welcoming, interesting, maybe entertaining, and definitely not salesy. This is a moment shoppers can plan for, look forward to, and depend upon. A great execution of this moment is this what turns out to be a surf store, a surfboard brand, and they have created an oasis in the sky. Basically, they have created. You can see there the unfilled dance floor. So there's a DJ there somewhere. You can see the lounge seating arranged in groupings so that people can enjoy one another's company. You can see the product along the right side, the surfboards. They are positioned more as art than they are as product. Way there in the back, you can see the counter where folks are ready to help you. They're not walking the sales floor because there is no sales floor. This experience is completely under the control of the shopper, and he or she can hang as long as they want, buy, not buy. It's up to them. They have the power. They're not being pushed in any direction, and they appreciate that, and it does make them feel more kindly toward the brand.
This is, I mean, this is a pop-up on steroids. This is like more like Surf's Up. But what they did is, there's so much space that's out there, and it's being creative and it's using your imagination to utilize it, to take your brand and let your brand really have an arena to show itself off. And this type of destination, as Bradley said, it works on so many different shopper moment levels that we've shared with you, but it is the ultimate kind of get together of all of our shopper moments. When you could have, in this particular instance, something like a surfboard hanging on the wall like it's a museum piece on the rooftop of a building in Midtown, you're not only engaging a shopper in an odd environment, you're taking them away on a journey. And this is it's a wonderful idea. It could be a quarter of the size, it could be a third of the size. They just used the space that was available to them, but you can have so much fun doing this type of uh, retail destination execution.
And we see brands like Lululemon and oh, just went out of my head.
But even our buddies at Barnes and Noble, I mean, you can come
Right.
in and you can hang out for 3 hours and not buy a thing,
Hmm.
but we're gonna kind of bet that you would.
Right, and
Because it's
the idea,
comfortable, it's inviting, it's warm, it's engaging.
and nobody is expecting you to do anything. You're welcome, and
True.
there's a space. It was Urban Outfitters. I couldn't get in my head quickly enough, but they've created spaces in their stores that are specific lounging areas with books or small listening areas, and they are specifically for shoppers to come in and hang out. And
Mhm.
there's no time limit, and people go for that specific reason now.
Very true. Very true. All right. Well, let's see. We took a look at all of these different moments, and you could see how that each one of the designs is different. But by now, you should be able to see the critical qualities that each one of them shares. They're all vessels for meaningful, emotional, rewarding connections between a brand and the shopper. The branded in store shopper moment is one of the hardest working tools in the retail marketing toolbox. It will help you build your brand, it will certainly drive word of mouth, enhance customer service, showcase a brand personality, and move product better than any tired old experience ever could. What we're really witnessing now is nothing less than the rise of the shopper moment and the demise of the in store experience. And retail marketers, take note. They have to embrace the new and must seize that moment.
And make it satisfying.
Well, well played, my friend. So that's what makes a retail moment. We really appreciate you sharing some of your values with us. I hope we made them meaningful.
And satisfying.
Well, thank you, Mike, and thank you, Bradley, and thank you all for spending your time with us today. But please do not go away. We'd love to hear what points resonated with you all or answer any questions you have. We do have a couple of questions in the queue right now, but we have time for lots more. So I encourage you all to ask more by simply typing them in the box and going ahead and hitting send. All right, let's start with this first one, and I will just read it verbatim. Uh, it says, "Isn't a quote unquote moment just another way to say quote unquote experience? Is there really anything new here?"
I hope so, or we have just wasted
A lot of moments.
a lot of moments.
A lot of time.
I think that it's all about the language, and I think we can't think of it as just another way to say experience. I think, as we were saying, the idea of the moment carries a lot of subtext, and we use it on purpose because it has meaning beyond just an interaction. And I think it's indicative of what we as retail marketers need to do across the board, which is look at the things that we use all of the time, like shelving or an end cap, and think of it as something else. Meaning, maybe the end cap becomes a selfie station. Maybe there's some on-shelf beacons that are attracting specific people who need specific things. I think the idea is to elevate the moment, and I'm sorry, the experience, and involve it. And the moment seems the logical, next step.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. But I think also, Bradley, from a design standpoint, a moment is the experience doesn't happen if the moment doesn't work. And I think it's that first instant where you engage something, whether it's that first bite of your favorite meal, the first sip of your favorite glass of wine, or your first interaction with a product or a brand. And I think that you have to be creative in how you message. And like you said, even in a pop-up world or in a destinational world, you have to be creative in where you meet the consumer and where that first moment takes place. Because if the moment works, you have a shopper, you have a friend for a long time. If the moment doesn't work, there is no experience. It just kind of drifts away. So I
Yeah,
think there is a distinctive difference.
and I think your examples completely pull into focus the idea that a moment is emotion based. The first sip of wine or the taste of a favorite food, those all speak to anticipation and um, the excitement of sharing. And again, back to something being legitimately satisfying.
Okay, good answers, and I thank you. I do see some more questions coming in, so keep those questions coming. We're going to answer them in the order they came. So our second question is, can a shopper moment do more than one thing at a time? Can it inform and inspire and entertain all at the same time?
Um, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think we shared a lot of examples of how that happens. It's interesting to see this in a question, but just to reinforce what we shared with you, that these moments do a lot of things, but they kind of connect together. You could certainly entertain with a sense of humor, with whether it's graphic or physically by an installation. I mean, you're certainly entertaining by putting these incredible surfboards on a wall and making a almost a museum or a gallery piece out of it. Um, but you really, at that point, when that first moment happens, you have to educate the consumer quickly as to what it is they're experiencing, what it is they're looking at, and why they want it, and how it fits into her world. And so, yeah, and then the rest of it comes together. If you could do that with a beautiful smile on your face and entertain them, I think they should definitely do both. Bradley?
I totally agree, and I would only add that, you know, on the front end, when you're creating or thinking about this moment you're going to provide for shoppers, that you know what you want to do. Because again, that's true for anything we do. Understanding the objective makes sure we have something that actually moves the needle, and we have something to measure and look at the end of the day. So absolutely, a moment can do several things at one time. I just think you need clarity on the front end of what it is you really want to make happen.
Okay. All right, let's get to our next question, and that is, it's a bit of a stretch to think that signage and display can be transformed into a moment, isn't it? I'm not sure how you would even do that.
Um, I, I think it's kind of what we alluded to earlier, which is the redefinition of everything we do. The idea of thinking differently when we're looking at the basics, the standards, the classics of retail marketing. What is an in-store event? Well, it could be anything you want it to be. Is a display just for product items, or can it be an interactive video wall where people take a look and vote on what somebody's trying on? You can crowdsource opinions. I think the idea of breaking free of what we think these things have to be is going to have to be done, and I think that approaching it through the lens of creating a moment helps you start to do that. But I think it's mandatory for us moving forward.
Well, I think it's mandatory for us as as an agency that provides these types of services. But what you have to do is you have to think of what you have to work with originally. What is your floor plan? What is your build out space? What type of budget are you working with? What type of turnaround do you want to have on it? And how quickly do you want to get product in the face of the consumer and get that feedback? It's utilizing what's out there. I mean, everyone wants to renew and revitalize and recycle. And if there's an opportunity to use fixturing or a built-in within your footprint and use it in a very, very different way that's going to engage the consumer on a whole new level, yeah, rock it out. I mean, everything works. Everything works. It's how creative and how open-minded you are to it. And it's working with your designers and your marketers and letting them in on it.
Yeah, and I would add to that that if you really want to know the difference between what makes a true shopper moment, give me a call or send me an email, and we'll show you exactly how it's done. All right, next question, guys. This one is on the more practical side of things, and it is very simply, what about budgets? How do I budget a quote unquote moment?
I think it's a really good question, and I think it's a question that marketers don't ask soon enough in the process. I think dollars in a lot of ways determine what we do. That doesn't mean imagination and a great idea can't make that more powerful and more useful, or affect sales in a more positive way. I think we need to think about budgets differently, just like we're thinking about everything else we do differently. Think about different reasons for trying some of this moment creation. Maybe it's more of a test. Maybe it's a learning experience. We borrow from tech the concept of fail fast. Figure out what doesn't work and go back out there with something that might work better based on the learnings you've gathered from that first effort. I think the idea of flexibility and agility and all of those things that are sometimes difficult for large retail companies need to be examined again. And the idea of budgeting should be looked at not just at the sales, but at the level of engagement that it builds, which will lead to more sales. So I think it's not an all or nothing proposition, and I think there has to be a willingness to experiment a little bit and fail and get smarter and do it better the next time.
Yeah, I mean, you could do some great things on a very, very small scale that are very creative and very well designed and well planned. And if in reality, in the marketplace, if it doesn't work to your satisfaction, you can quickly change it before you expand it out to a greater population. But it's also, I mean, it's I think it's being honest and working in tandem with your marketing agency and you know, we always provide several different price points for what we do, and we try to get as much information beforehand. But if that information isn't clear, we try to offer a couple of alternatives that based on a span of budgets. You know, you can't. Money doesn't make a good idea. A good idea is a good idea. So it's how you use it and how smart you are with it. And it's like your regular marketing budget. You don't have to sit and, you know, what do you want to reach? How far do you want your message to go? And what's the best way to make it work?
Okay, good stuff. All right, this is the last question so far, so this will be also your last chance to ask any more. Um, and it is a very good question. It is, what can you do if a product is at the mercy of the retailer? How do you create a moment if you are not in control of how your product is presented?
It's a great question, and I
It's a
think
very real question. Yeah.
when we look at the the Walmarts and the Targets of the world, that's a huge part, and I think part of the solution is when selling in a particular product or line into a large retailer, I think you sell the shopper experience with it. I think you build that experience around the product and you take that total package to the larger retailer and explain to them how you are going to support it and how you are going to, in the small space you're allotted, create a shopper moment. I mean, we've seen some of the kind of store in store approach. We've seen Target have small sections devoted to specific new designers. There are ways to do it. I think the secret is to remember that you're not just selling a product, you're selling the opportunity for shopper interaction with that product and the halo effect to the overall retailer who, in essence, provided the moment.
Yeah, I always try to remind my clients that they should remember that their first customer is a retailer who's going to allow their product in the store in the first place. It's wonderful if you have your own environment, but if not, you have to wow them. You have to do all of the moments that we've shared with you in the past 45 minutes or so have to be applicable in one way or another to that large retailer and make them understand that your product is very, very special. Your product has qualities X, Y, and Z, and based on the way that you're presenting your product to the final consumer, you're really going to be able to generate some excitement in their store, which will hopefully on their end lead to greater sales with other products. So you just have to remember who you're speaking to, and the first girl at the dance is that retailer who's going to give you that floor space. So be true to them.
Okay, great answer. Great question. Just want to clarify, there's no more questions, right, on the queue?
Yep,
Okay.
that's it.
All
Last
right,
one.
guys. Well, I think that that about wraps things up for us today. If you have any more follow-up questions, you can just shoot me an email. My email address is on the screen right now, michael.decker@medallionretail.com. Anything at all, love to help you out. And we would love to engage with you on ideas on how we can create shopper moments for your brand. So I look forward to connecting with you, and I thank you very much for your time today. Wishing you all a very nice and great afternoon.
Yeah, thank
Take
you very
care.
much. Thanks for spending time with us.